bueno, que podamos todos entender y estar aquí juntos aprendiendo. Y bueno, lo voy a hacer en inglés, pero solo quería saludarlos en español. Um, so I would love to, I guess maybe I'll just sort of introduce myself really quickly, and then I would actually love to hear from everybody who's on the call, to just understand who you are and what brought you here to this conversation. If you have a food business, or a food business idea, what the idea is, because I want to make sure that what I'm talking about is really helpful to you guys. And please, feel free to interrupt me for questions, and we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. I hope that this can be kind of, informal in the sense of like, a conversation and something really useful. So, anyway, I'm Leticia and I grew up in Austin, Texas. My family's from Mexico City. My parents immigrated from Mexico just before I was born. And I have always loved food and cooking. And I also, really believe that everybody deserves an opportunity to, be successful economically and to have, be able to make a living doing something that they're passionate about, not just, working because they have to work. And so I found La Cocina actually right when I graduated from college. It just was such a combination of the things that interested me in terms of like women's rights and immigrant rights, and then doing that through food and the food industry, which I think is such a powerful force, in terms of economic mobility, obviously with business ownership, but also, just in terms of sharing our culture and our history with others, and really kind of shaping America, through food. So I've been at La Cocina now for 13 years. And I have worked with like 150 different businesses,
Wow.
who have made their way through our incubator program, all different kinds of businesses, you know, tamale businesses, chocolate businesses, juice businesses. And so, I've never owned a food business before, but I run an organization that runs a business incubator for food businesses. So I've worked really closely with entrepreneurs over the course of those 13 years and learned a ton about, what it takes to really run a successful food business. So really I'm here today to share a little bit about what we do in at La Cocina in our incubator, and also hopefully provide you guys with a little bit of guidance or advice as you're thinking about your businesses. And obviously we are doing this in the time of COVID, which is a very complicated, sad, frustrating time. And I hope that you are all safe and healthy, but I also think everybody still has to eat, and so there is still opportunity, and so it's just about figuring out what it is, and then also making sure that you can do it safely, and really stay healthy so that you can continue to run your business, once this pandemic passes. So anyway, that was kind of a long introduction, but I'm really looking forward to learning about all of you and who you are and what brought you here. So maybe, I'm just going to call on people, and if you speak Spanish, just say it in Spanish. It's okay. I understand. So we'll go from there. Maybe we'll start with Florence. And everyone has to take themselves off mute because I think it put everyone on mute automatically. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. Well, I'm here. I'm here for the information on how to gather, how to collect information. I have a non-food business, and all the information in this workshop has really helped me a lot as far as communication and how to brand your product, how to, get it out there. And I'm also Kathleen's sister.
Nice. What is your non-food business? I'm curious.
It is adornments. If you can see them
cool.
here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, marketing and sales and all of that. It's not,
And
food and anything together. Else.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sofía.
Hi everybody, how are you? Happy New Year. Hola Leticia, mi nombre es Sofía Ramírez. Bueno, pues mi esposo y yo estamos empezando algo de comida en casa por ahora. Nos reinventamos en un trabajo diferente porque el trabajo que hacíamos antes pues ya no lo podemos hacer. Así que estamos vendiendo comida desde casa y estamos en estos talleres aprendiendo cómo ir más allá en un futuro. Y pues bueno, estamos aquí para escuchar también tu historia y para aprender de ti y de los demás también. Así que gracias por estar aquí.
Claro, ¿y qué tipo de comida es que venden?
Comida mexicana, vendemos sopes, vendemos caldos, enchiladas, chiles rellenos, mole. Kathleen ya ha probado nuestra comida, ya sabe a qué sabe, y trato de, en los tacos que estoy metiendo las tortillas frescas, las hago aquí en casa. Tengo la maquinita, tengo el comal, y estoy metiendo todo fresco, hecho del día, y trato de meter lo más original que puedo. Y no es algo que estoy metiendo como muy picoso, sino como que todo el mundo lo pueda comer, pero separado. Le pongo como un poco de salsa para acompañar la comida. Es básicamente como comida mexicana, con un
Ya me
toque
diste hambre.
original. Sí, ¿verdad? Bienvenida.
¿Y te gustaría tener restaurante algún día? ¿Esa es la meta?
Pues esa es la meta,
Ok.
pero también recuerdo que Kathleen algún día me preguntó, ¿qué quieres tener? ¿Quieres tener un catering? ¿Quieres tener un restaurante? ¿O quieres tener una cadena de restaurantes? En esa ocasión le dije yo que un restaurante, pero ahorita que estoy conociendo más, no sé, pero sé que quiero entrar en la comida, pero me llama mucho la atención lo de catering, porque no sé, creo que como que, no sé, me gusta, me ha gustado
Excelente.
como más ese lado. Ajá.
Perfecto. Pues muchas gracias, Sofía, qué gusto.
Gracias a ti.
Lupe. Si me escuchas, Lupe, y quieres...
Sí, aquí
Ahora, hola.
Nomás igual interesada saber cómo se hace un negocio, más bien para información solamente. No tengo yo ahorita negocio, pero me gusta comer. Hasta eso,
Es importante.
Sofía hizo caldo de albóndigas ahora y es lo que voy a comer para lunch. So, más bien nomás para información.
Muchísimas gracias, perfecto. Elena.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola.
Mi nombre es Elena, pertenezco a Familias Latinas Unidas. Pues yo la verdad, a mí me llama mucho la atención poner un restaurante más por mi hija y por mi esposo, pero a mí mucho me llama la comida saludable, para personas diabéticas, los dulces. Hacerle, digo a mi hija que me gustaría poner una bakery donde hacer comida para personas que tengan, aunque todo tipo de persona lo va a poder comer, sino simplemente como mi mamá falleció de diabetes, me gustaría poner algo así para postres que no tengan tanto dulce, hacerlo como con azúcar stevia o comida orgánica, es lo que más me llama la atención. O una cafetería, todo eso me llama mucho la atención y primero Dios, eso quisiera poner más adelante, como está ahorita eso de la pandemia, pues estoy detenida, pero esa es mi ilusión, poner una bakery, una cafetería o un restaurante, pero más comida orgánica y saludable.
Ok, perfecto. Otra vez dándome hambre con los panes. Chef T. Can you introduce yourself? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Come on in, Chef T. We're waiting for you. She may.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
now we
hear you
can.
now.
Hi, Okay. Sorry, I'm at work, so I'm just trying to hear you guys since I don't really have that much of time. I'm just sneaking in.
Okay.
My full name is Tazita Alamayo. I'm from Ethiopia. I graduated from a culinary art school with culinary arts and restaurant management. Right now, I am running my own business. Let me see if you guys can see me. I'm new for this thing, so
Yeah, I saw you
let's see, how do
earlier
I do it?
when you clicked
Yeah,
on.
hold on. Let me see. Yes. Can you guys see?
Yeah, now we can see you.
Yes,
Huh?
hi. So yeah, right now I started my own company. It's called Tnt Lifestyle, and I am the head chef for my restaurant. It's fully vegan, and we are in the west side, located in the west side, Santa Monica Boulevard and Butler. And it's we opened this location right on when the pandemic hit, which was on May 3rd. It was scheduled for April, but the pandemic happened, so we pushed it a little bit, and then we opened in May. And here we are, trying to
That's
make it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats. It's a big deal
Thank
to
you.
open a restaurant during a pandemic. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, it was already planned to open, but we didn't know this was gonna happen. So we pushed it, and then we decided to just go for it anyway. So we opened it in May. It's been quite a challenge. It's up and down, every time the lockdown rules comes out, then just just pulls people back because of, I guess, nobody wants to get sick, and it's, I guess, the safest way to stay home. So, but it's very affecting all of us right now, and we're taking it day by day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. We're glad you're here. Chef T, what is the name of your restaurant? Or your
Tnt Lifestyle.
T and T?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lifestyle.
Great. Thank you so much for chiming in. If there are any questions or any direction you want to go in, Leticia's taking information as she's going to move forward and give us a lot of insights.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you. And then Chaltu, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Come on in.
If you can, oh, there you go.
Welcome.
They're not saying hi.
Yes, we
Hello.
do. We see you.
Let me see.
Hey guys, my name is Charles.
Wait, I don't see her. Let me see if I can see her.
Hi, salam. Alto Baralo. My name is
Salam.
My name is
Can you
Charles.
mute yourself? Can you mute yourself so that the sound, thank you.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Charles. I
Well,
don't know what, I just get in. I don't know what I'm going to do. What I'm going to introduce myself. What I'm going to say anyway.
Do you have a business or why did you join? What are you interested in learning
No,
about?
I don't have business, but I'm living in Santa Monica. I'm helping around. I'm a member with what they call the cook food and sell food. PTA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just someone send it for me. I want to just join. I'm very happy. I'm very excited. Someone come open restaurants in the Santa Monica district.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm very excited to see. That's all. I'm not nothing. I'm just working.
Great. Well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And I'm actually, my mom told me I have to turn off the albondigas, which she's making. And so I'm going to be right back. I don't want them to burn.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay,
One
hurry
second.
back.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Thank everybody for coming today. And if you've already signed in, please sign in the chat. Leave your email address so we'll know you're here. Chef T, if you can hear me, if you're available, what are you making right now? Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, I was just asking Chef T what she was making. Okay.
All right. Ascale?
On the iPhone?
Okay, I think they might have disappeared. Erica, you want to introduce yourself and why you're here?
Erica may be drive. Oh, there she goes.
I am driving. I just stopped for a hot second.
Okay.
I'm here. My name's Erica. A lot of people, well, I'm not gonna say everybody knows me on here. I'm here to just learn. I'm just here to learn.
Great. Well, thanks for joining. And then Angel or Angel?
Angel, my mom calls me Angel. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Angel.
Saludos a todos. My name is Angel Villaseñor. I actually work for the city of Santa Monica, really for the Human Services Division, but I was also born and raised in Santa Monica, born and raised in this community. Really happy to see sort of, you know, this grassroots approach that Carla and team are taking around this effort, really, you know, working with the community to help shape and inform the outlook of a project like this. So I'm really excited to be here to learn more and then continue to advocate as best as I can within the city and within the community to make sure that, you know, we create opportunities like these to really uplift the rich cultural diversity that exists and really maintain it in a city that's experiencing hyper gentrification and kind of losing its essence in that way. So happy to be here, happy to learn more, and hope to continue to work in partnership with you and others.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Angel. So I think I might just dive in. I think there's some people who have, you know, joined or, you know, might be coming in and out. So definitely feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you didn't get to speak out loud, so that we can all, you know, be connected. But really what I want to talk a little bit about is what is business incubation? You know, what does that mean? What is an incubator? And why have an incubator? What's the point? And, you know, the thing that I want to kind of come to talk about sort of at the beginning is like big picture injustice. You know, the United States bills itself as like the place where anybody can be an entrepreneur and anybody's dreams can come true. And I do believe that that is true, but there are some people for whom it is a lot easier to start a business or a lot easier to be successful than for others. And that most often, unfortunately, has to do with race, and it has to do with gender, and it has to do with money. And so, you know, there are incredibly talented people like in any society, right? Like in any zip code, in any city, there's talent everywhere. If you know kind of where to look for it and where to find it. What I don't think really exists everywhere, unfortunately, is opportunity. You know, depending on where you were born or who your parents are or what color your skin is or whether or not you're male or female, that dictates a lot of what opportunities are available to you, which is really frustrating. And so La Cocina really was started in San Francisco to address this problem, which is that only certain people get access to the best opportunities for business ownership. And so when you look around and you see the food industry and you see, you know, the top restaurants or you see articles about the top chefs, you know, it's a lot of white men. And that's not what our country looks like. That's not what our communities look like. And so there's a like a imbalance or like a misrepresentation there that we're trying to correct, right? We're trying to say that's not how it should be. That's not representational. That means that not everybody is getting the right amount of opportunity. What we want to do is we want to uplift and we want to really provide opportunities for very deserving entrepreneurs, mostly women, mostly people of color, mostly immigrants who don't often get those chances. And so what an incubator does is it provides access to resources and access to capital and access to, you know, press and connections and all of the things that certain people have just because they're, you know, wealthy and white. And so what we try to do in our incubator is to gather as many resources as we can and to really, you know, make a point that this is the best food, you know, that home cooks, you know, that women who are, you know, cooking with love and, you know, the food that they know are deserving of having restaurants on like the best and busiest streets, like it, you know, looks like Chef T has accomplished. And so, you know, it can be hard to do that on your own. It's not impossible. I mean, certainly not impossible, but it's unfairly hard. And so what organizations like La Cocina do is try to remove some of those barriers to entering the food industry that exist for people of color and for women and for immigrants. And how do we do that? So we have a commercial kitchen space that is a shared use space. It's in the Mission District in San Francisco, so it's pretty central. You can get there on public transportation. It's like accessible, and it's a big kitchen. So 8 businesses before COVID, 8 businesses could be in there at one time cooking. And so instead of a business having to right off the bat pay for a full rent, that they can just come to La Cocina and be part of our program and just pay per hour. And it's a pretty low rate compared to other kitchens that rent hourly. And so our kitchen is an affordable kitchen and it's a shared kitchen. So in the kitchen, there's lots of pots and pans, there's ovens, there's a refrigerator, there's lots of equipment. So people don't have to pay so much startup costs to get going because they're able to start out of this shared use kitchen space. And typically what they start off by doing are things like catering, farmers markets, special events, you know, things that don't require like a restaurant space or something, you know, because La Cocina is not a restaurant. La Cocina is just, you know, a kitchen. And what we then do is we have our kitchen space, and then we also focus a lot on what we call access to markets. Access to markets is really about who are you going to sell to? How are you going to sell? Is that going to be through a farmer's market? Is it going to be through catering? If you're making cookies or chocolates, you know, what are some of your first accounts going to be? Can you get into, you know, a grocery store or two and really begin to kind of prove your market? So our incubator creates, you know, we have a kitchen space with all of the permits and licenses and everything so that people can, when they start their business, be working out of a certified commercial kitchen space and actually be formal, right? Because if you're cooking out of your home, for the most part, it's informal, it's unpermitted. Once you come to an incubator program like La Cocina, you can get permits and licenses to operate in the kitchen. And then we're also providing people with a lot of business information, business, you know, assistance. So, you know, when you're starting a business, there's so many things that you need, right? You need a logo, you need a website, you need food photography for that website, you need probably some social media, you need your permits, you have to maybe start your LLC, right? There's all these different bits and pieces that you have to do as an entrepreneur. And we at La Cocina, as part of our incubator program, kind of work people through a curriculum that kind of takes you every step of the way. So, you know, you can come, you know, let's say that you're like Sophia, you're cooking at home, you know your food, you know your recipes, and you're thinking, how do I formalize this into a catering business, right? One of the things you need is a certified commercial kitchen. We have that. But there's so many other things you also need, right? You also need a business license. You also need a logo. You also need maybe business cards if you're going to start handing them out to people to do your catering. So what we can do is provide people with connections to graphic designers who, you know, volunteer for La Cocina, and they do that at a lower cost or even for free. So people, you know, are able to get a really nice logo. Then we also have some volunteers that are food photographers, and during the day, their food photographer is like for Whole Foods Market, and they're getting paid, tons of money to take photos of things. Then in their, free time, they volunteer because they're excited to work with small businesses. They want to, provide access to people who don't normally have access. And so they do a photo shoot in our garage, and people get beautiful food photography that they can then put on their website or, use in social media. So we as an organization, we call that technical assistance. So we're able to get all these different experts and give those businesses as much access to those kinds of things that they need as possible, and at as low of a cost as possible, right? So the kitchen is at a lower cost. All of these different business things that you need are at a lower cost. And then you also get connected to these sales avenues. So the access to market piece. We know people who run farmers markets around the Bay Area. They know that the businesses at La Cocina are good businesses, make really good food. So when they have an opening at a farmers market, they're going to come to us and say, hey, do you have any new businesses that are ready to go sell at that market? And we as an incubator can say, yeah, absolutely. We have these 3 businesses. They're great. They're at the right stage. They've got all their permits. They've got all their marketing in order. They're really figuring out their operation. So like they're ready to have regular places to sell. And so we provide people with that connection to those places to sell. And so an incubator, there's different incubators there, they work differently. At La Cocina, what we have is what's called kind of a long-term incubator. There are some incubators where it's like you do a 3-month program or a 6-month program, and you kind of get the knowledge and you get the connections, and then off you go. We're different in the sense that, during the first 6 months, you do get a lot more kind of classes and logos and curriculum and permits and accounting and QuickBooks, and, all of that kind of happens at the beginning. But then actually on average, people stay at La Cocina for like 5.5 years, 6 years. They're using our kitchen space, and they're growing, right? They're slowly but surely, they're selling at more and more farmers markets. They're doing more catering jobs. They're really taking that opportunity of being in a space where it's kind of like, an incubator is like for chickens on a farm. It's like a little box, and it's warm and it's protected. The foxes aren't going to go in and get the chickens. There's food in there and there's water in there, and the chickens are kind of safe. When they're little, they can kind of grow to the point where they're able to then, go out and pick at the worms in the field. And so our incubator, provides those services, those resources, those connections to businesses when they're baby businesses. And you'd be surprised how long it takes for a business to grow to a stage where it's actually able to kind of be out in the world. And it particularly takes a very long time because of systemic racism, and because of, income inequality, and because of, how gendered opportunities are. So it takes that much longer for the businesses that start at La Cocina to be able to gather as much money and as many resources as they need to be able to be competitive, in kind of the normal capitalist society that we're in. So we want to provide people with as many resources and as much of an opportunity as possible to be kind of in that community safe safe kitchen space. That feels funny now with COVID, right? Like it's like, what I mean is, it's not perfect. You still have to be running your business. There's no like safety net that's going to ensure success, but we are able, I think, to lower some of the barriers that make it harder for people to be successful. Certainly there are some people who after 3 years, they're not making enough money. They realize, actually, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I haven't been able to get as many farmers markets as I thought I was. Maybe, people don't want healthy baked goods. And I thought it was a great idea, but there's just not enough of a market for it. But that's okay too. Like if you spend 3 years doing it, but you didn't go bankrupt and you didn't, spend all of your life savings and you were able to learn, like that seems like a good experience too, and you're able to kind of take that knowledge and then take it to whatever you're going to do next, whether it's a different business or, a different job. So what we're trying to do is sort of prevent catastrophe from a business perspective. We can't ensure success, but what we really want to do is like lower the barriers, provide people with as many resources as we can, and then really provide people with the opportunity to grow their business and to see if it works, to see if it'll sell, kind of just to prove that, like, yes, there are a lot of people who want my really good tacos made with homemade tortillas. Yes, there are a lot of people who want vegan food, who, want to focus on their health. And I have a product that they want. And when that happens, right, like after so many years of being at farmers markets and doing your catering, your business grows and you're at a place where you're financially, stable, you're operationally stable, you know what you're doing, you know how to do your permits every year, then that's when a business is ready to graduate from La Cocina. So graduating from La Cocina, graduating from an incubator for us really is about taking that step to independence. So, maybe having your own restaurant space. So for 5 years, someone's been selling at farmers markets, they've been doing catering, they've been building up their cash flow. So then when they graduate, they're ready to move into a brick and mortar space and pay rent because they have that cash flow from the farmers markets and from the catering, and they're able to then increase it by having a brick and mortar space. So, compared to a lot of, just people who just get started in the food industry, if you work with an incubator or an accelerator, there's a better chance of being able to be successful. Not a 100% chance. There's never, right? There's never full security that a business is going to make it. But there is, you have kind of more, you've had more time to figure out your operations. You've had more time to really figure out who your target market is. Then you have a better chance of being able to be successful in your restaurant space or in your catering company or in, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. So just a little bit of an introduction to how La Cocina works and why we work with businesses for so long, why our focus is on, women, immigrants, people of color, and then really kind of like the things that we provide, which are the kitchen space, technical assistance, and then access to things like where to sell, access to, how do you get loans, how do you get capital for your business. We don't provide capital for the businesses. So we're not like investors in the business. We don't take a percentage. Some incubators work like that, especially like tech incubators. But La Cocina is a nonprofit. And so our goal is always just to make the entrepreneurs be as successful as possible. I hope that kind of gives you a sense of what an incubator is and how an incubator works. I think that what I would say is that even if there's not like an incubator yet in Santa Monica, and I know that there's some really cool plans to create them, there are lots of different organizations and lots of different resources for entrepreneurs. And so if you're able to, kind of get connected in with organizations that provide either the city government, like in San Francisco, we have an Office of Small Business. So whenever you have questions about permits or licenses or anything like that, you can get those answers directly from the city. There's also what are called CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. I'm sure that there are some, in your area. And those are typically like, if you just go to a bank and you say, hey, I want to start a restaurant and I need some money, they're going to laugh in your face. And they're not going to give you a loan. But if you go to a CDFI where, their mission is to provide people who can't get bank loans with, these opportunities, they might be able to give you a small loan, just to get started, maybe $1,000 or $2,000. And once you pay it back, then you could get a $5,000 loan or a $10,000 loan. So, there's lots of resources that exist in communities for people who are wanting to start businesses. But I do think you kind of have to seek them out. You have to know that you want to kind of tap into what those resources are. Right now, there are like extra resources because of COVID. So like the state of California just announced like a COVID grants program. It's going to be like $200 million that go to small businesses. So, you have to kind of hear about those things, apply to those things, make sure that you're kind of staying in the loop of all the different PPPs and stuff that are coming out. And as an incubator, we kind of try to pull all that information and all of those resources together for the people who are in our program so that they have a good chance of, being able to access them. Because, I don't know if you guys, right, if you're reading the news around the stimulus or the PPP, right? So the government puts out this program, it's supposed to help small businesses. Who gets the vast majority of the money? Big companies run by people who are wealthy. Who gets left behind? Black-owned businesses, Latino-owned, Asian-owned businesses. And so, you really have to, it's so frustrating, but you really have to like know what you want, like, and figure out what resources are out there and like fight for them, and get them for yourself. Because I think that like our communities are the ones that really deserve them and that are getting hit hardest by COVID and that are getting hit hardest by the economic downturn. So, those are resources that like you should be accessing and that I feel like our community should be accessing. So we're always, really trying to push for that kind of thing, COVID or not. Anytime there's grants available or resources available, we want to make sure they get channeled to our entrepreneurs. And then, the other thing that I want to talk about is sort of the journey that businesses take with our incubator. So I talked about, so what is our incubator? What do we provide? But, what does it feel like when you're an entrepreneur? So for us, it's pretty common to work with people who are selling informally or illegally. They've been selling for a while. They've been selling, like Sophia is, out of their homes. This is a product that they, tamales, let's just take, we have a woman named Leticia who was really good at making tamales. She made them at first, just, every Christmas season in December. And she would make tons of them. And then she would take orders from her friends and her friends would pay her, for the tamales. And that was sort of like a little way to make a little bit of side money. And then she started taking tamales like to her kids' PTA meetings, and people would buy bags of tamales from her at those meetings. And then, she actually, this was back before in the last recession, 2008, her husband lost his job. And so she was like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? We have to still put food on the table. So she started making more tamales and selling them, every week. And then, at a certain point, someone, I think from the school that her kids went to, was like, this could be your business. Like if you weren't doing it out of your house, like you could really make this into a business. And have you heard of La Cocina? They're an incubator for food businesses. So she had not heard of La Cocina, but was doing all these tamales out of her tiny little home kitchen. And she actually, came to La Cocina and said, hey, right now I'm making like about 1,000 tamales a week and selling them, $2 each tamale. And this is how I'm, making enough money for my kids and for my rent. But I think there's a lot of potential, at home, my pots are this big and I can only, make this much chicken at a time. But if I could, make more tamales, I bet I could sell them. And I really think there's some potential there. And so what we told Alicia, which is what we tell everybody, is like, yes, right? You have a product, that it sells. You think it could be a business. We're excited for you. Now what we want you to go do is write a business plan. And sometimes people are like, what? I don't want to write a business plan. That's so boring. But it's so important. It's so important when you're thinking about starting a business, like a formal business, to actually sit down and look at the numbers and sit down and force yourself to think about the marketing part, the operations part, the finances part. And what's amazing is that there's lots of different business planning classes, both in English and in Spanish. So, we referred Alicia to an organization called MEDA, which is a Mission Economic Development Agency, and they run business planning classes. So she was able to join a class, she was able to get her business plan written, then she applied to La Cocina. And we were able to look at her business plan with her and say, hey, yeah, this looks pretty realistic. We think you can do this, right? We think you can start selling. And she wanted to have a tamale trailer, like a taco truck, but a tamale one. And then from there, grow and maybe eventually have a tamale restaurant. That was her original idea. So she got started in our incubator. She went through the 6-month program, which is called pre-incubation. She named her business Alicia's Tamales Los Mayas. She got a beautiful logo. She got beautiful photos of her tamales, figured out who her target demographic was, because, you know, when she was selling herself, she was selling to mostly Mexicans, her friends, you know, and her kids' friends. But she thought, you know, there are a lot of other people who like this food. It's not just Mexicans, right? Like, I want to expand my target market. My target market is actually like busy moms who want something kind of healthy that they can put on the table for their kids that's quick. All they have to do is either steam it or pop it in the microwave, open my little thing of salsa, and like that's what busy moms need. Then I also want to park my trailer somewhere near downtown and feed like office workers who just want to get like a warm lunch. San Francisco is always cold. You know, they're going to come down, they're going to buy 2 tamales, a little bit of salsa, and that's going to be their lunch. So, you know, she really thought about like, who am I going to be selling to and how am I going to be selling? She got all of her permits. She started an LLC, which is, as an immigrant who maybe has an ITIN number instead of a social security number, setting something up like an LLC or a corporation is helpful, because then your corporation can do all of the taxes and everything else that it needs to, and your status as a citizen or a non-citizen is not important, right? And so, you know, we work with people with pro bono lawyers to set up their business structure. We work with people, you know, to really think about their finances. So if Alicia wanted to start selling from a trailer, like a taco trailer that you pull from a truck, those things cost like, I don't know, $6,000-$7,000, even the really basic ones. And so, you know, we worked with her to get a loan to be able to get her little trailer that had the steam table so the tamales could stay warm, and, you know, all the different things with the health department. And then, you know, she finished the pre-incubation, which is kind of all the nuts and bolts, and then moved into incubation, which is really just about sales. So, you know, she got a spot at Justin Herman Plaza, which is in kind of near downtown San Francisco, and she started selling her tamales there for lunch. And then she also kept doing more like, you know, 4 or 5 tamales with a big thing of salsa that she was trying to sell to people kind of like for dinner and stuff. And what she realized when she was selling is that actually it was the packages of tamales, the 4 or 5 tamales with the sauce, that was selling better than the tamales for lunch. Because who knows, right? But like, maybe people want salad for lunch, or they're trying to be healthy and they think of tamales as more of a dinner food, or they want them with rice and beans and they can't get them with rice and beans because the little cart can only do tamales. I mean, you don't really know, right? Like, you plan for one thing and then you kind of have to adjust and adapt and figure out what it is that people are wanting. And so what Alicia realized when she began to sell is actually what she thinks she needs to do is make packaged tamales and sell people tamales like in bulk to have in their freezer and then to pop in the microwave. So her like mom demographic turned out to be much more important than her business person lunch demographic. And so Alicia actually shifted and she became more of like a packaged food business. And yeah, she still used that trailer and she did special events. She sold at Outside Lands. Do you guys remember? I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a big outside music festival. I'm sure there's some guys too, but you know, they have food vendors and bands and stuff, and it's in Golden Gate Park. So she, you know, she was still doing the trailer and doing more like special events, but she didn't do the Monday through Friday with the trailer. Instead, she focused on packaging her tamales. She also started focusing on catering, because an office, you know, instead of selling 2 tamales at a time to that one worker who comes to your trailer, you can sell a tray of, you know, 50 tamales to an office, and a tray of rice and a tray of beans, and your cost, you know, goes down in terms of your labor. So she started doing more office lunches like in bulk, and she did the packaging. So then when we were thinking with her, this is probably a couple years in, so maybe she's been in the program for like 3 years. So when we were sitting down and talking with Alicia, say, hey, you know, how are you thinking about your graduation? Do you still think it makes sense to have a restaurant? And she was like, no, what I really need is a factory, right? What I really need is like a kitchen space where I can do my production and I can, you know, deliver 1,000 tamales to this office, but I can also deliver, you know, frozen tamales to people who want to, you know, eat them and have them at home and eat them whenever they're ready for them. And so we worked with Alicia to actually move into like a little food factory. It's in Hayward, which is, you know, familiar with the Bay Area. It's like in the southern part of the Bay Area. It's very industrial. So the kitchens out there are way cheaper than they are in San Francisco. They're bigger. And so she's able to do probably 10,000 tamales a week, if not more, from that space, because the pots are huge and, you know, the walk-in refrigerator is massive. And so she, you know, and that's before COVID, that's what she was doing. She had, I think, gosh, like probably 15 employees, and all they were doing was just making tamales every day. And she was selling them to big corporate catering. She was selling them like frozen, like on williamsonoma.com, like through, you know, different food vendors online. And then she also is selling them to grocery stores. So she sells them to like small local grocery stores. And she also got accepted to Whole Foods. So she sells, you know, packages of tamales with salsa at Whole Foods. So, you know, she graduated from La Cocina into this factory. She's really, you know, I think a model of kind of how someone can go from doing something at their house to being able to really formalize that business using the different resources that an incubator has. And then, you know, once she's graduated, it's not like we're like, goodbye, we never want to see you again. You know, we still stay connected. We still, you know, whenever she has questions, she can come, you know, ask our staff. If she needs access to more volunteer expertise, we can connect her to you know, obviously the graphic designer who had originally done her logo was like long gone, but when she wanted to, you know, redo her packaging design, we helped find her a graphic designer who was able to do it at a lower cost. So we try to continue to provide people with resources because we as a nonprofit, you know, our mission is about economic sustainability, right? It's not about just create a business and check a box off a list. It's about actually really changing someone's like economic situation. And it's also about creating jobs, right? So Alicia not only created a job for herself, but she's also created, you know, 15 other jobs for the people who are making tamales. And, you know, it's obvious, I think, but like if you in the food industry, it's not always a great place to work, the food industry, unfortunately, right? There's low wages, there's not, you know, there's not a lot of opportunities for people to organize, there's not always like good benefits. But, you know, when somebody who would be in that position of being an underpaid laborer becomes the owner, they treat their employees much better. You know, they have a sense of what that's like. I mean, for Alicia, her employees are so important to her, and taking care of them is so important to her, you know, to the point that when COVID hit and all of her catering just was gone, she was like, I have to find a way to keep doing something because I need to keep paying my employees. Like we're all in this together, you know? And so she's actually been doing a lot of tamales for like food insecurity work. So for people who are formerly homeless or for elderly people who need food, the city is providing payments to businesses to make those meals. And so she's been able to do that. And so that's kind of like a journey at La Cocina and how it's worked and sort of some of the help that we've provided along the way. But I'm just realizing the time. It's been so fun talking to you guys. I want to make sure that if you guys have questions, either about how La Cocina works or about how a business like Alicia's goes through the program, I am here and I am happy to stay a little bit extra time if need be. And also I put my email into the chat. So if you guys would like to email me questions separately, please feel free. And Kathleen knows how to find me also.
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask Leticia? Anybody?
Was that helpful? I hope it was helpful.
I think it was really helpful. I have a couple questions if no one does. So a couple of things. One of the things that I find really interesting is what I call the turning point. At which point and how does a new entrepreneur decide, do I go further? You know, like the individual that you described, she decided to expand because her demographics changed 100%. So she went from catering and that, which is, you know, more hospitality, into complete production. So how does a new entrepreneur sustain the idea of what they're doing and continue and be successful in a more expansive way? I don't know if that's a clear question, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's a little bit, there's this kind of like fun techie word that everyone uses, which is like pivoting, which really I think is adapting.
Yes.
And we actually have tough conversations with people sometimes where it's like, are you adapting or are you just chasing whatever money you can find?
Right.
Right? Like, are you staying true to what you thought your business was going to be? Or do you just like see an opportunity over here and go over toward that shiny light? And then you lose. It's easy. You can kind of lose at your core.
And I think that's a really important point, because at the place where people are in the business and trying to make money, and it may not be their idea of where they're going to make money, but they end up going over here, and it's almost a distraction. But maybe you could say more about that.
Yeah, it can be. And I think that what we try to do is really question people and say, well, let's look. Is this a target market worth pursuing? How much of a potential does it have? You know, do you really think it's the right investment in terms of your time and the money that you're putting in and what your sales might be from it? You know, sometimes we ask people to rewrite their business plans. If they're truly, really changing a lot, it's like, let's make a new one. Let's make sure that your plan actually fits this thing. And I think that what I think is that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to find a way. Sometimes though, you have to start over. Like sometimes it's so much of a pivot or it's so much of a new thing that what you really need to do is just start over. But with Leticia, it wasn't, right? Because her core product, which are these incredible tamales, stayed the same. So even though she thought she would do more food service or direct like restaurant, you know, food truck type thing, and she ended up doing more food service, catering, bulk orders, her product was exactly the same. So she needed to write a new business plan. She needed to really tweak, figure out her target market, figure out how to market to those guys, you know, rather than really start over. But, you know, there's a different example, which is in the packaged food world. We had this incredible entrepreneur named Cocina from Brazil. And when she started, she really wanted to make pot de creme. I don't know if you guys know what those are. They're like kind of like, it's like a French pudding. They were beautiful, delicious, best pot de creme I've ever had in my life. Refrigerated chocolate pudding. Guess what? Really a hard business to make work because it's perishable. Americans don't know what pot de creme is. How many of them can you really sell at a time? You know, and so she was like, you know, it's not going to work. So she didn't do the pot de creme thing. She went back to the drawing board and she was like, you know what Americans do really like? Cookies. And so she started Kika's Treats, which were chocolate covered cookies of all different kinds. You know, coconut shortbread, chocolate shortbread, graham crackers, all covered in chocolate. Incredible, right? Same entrepreneur, pastry business, same target demographic, kind of high-end dessert market, totally different product, totally different business plan. And that one worked. But it's like that tenacity to be like, you know, you can't have a pot de creme business that's marketing for pot de creme and then all of a sudden start making cookies, because that makes no sense. But you can, as an entrepreneur, decide, this product didn't work, I'm going to make cookies instead, and be really successful with it. If you're sticking with tamales the whole time, it's more about adapting and finding your way. But you know, if you really have to start over, it's okay. Start over. It's better to do that than to be stretched so thin that your brand makes no more sense, or that your core business is no longer there.
That's a really wonderful and powerful conversation, because at the same time, if someone was absolutely connected and embedded in catering, they wouldn't have been able to make the transition.
Totally.
Catering would have been the thing, and they would have been like, oh, I just want to cater.
Totally. And if you just want to cater and catering's not working out, then stop, you know, and go work for a caterer for a while. Get more experience, you know, figure out what's working for that caterer that you might be able to learn from. Like, there's no shame in that, you know. Like, I really feel like sometimes people ask me, like, what are some things I could do if I'm thinking about starting a food business? And like, my number one thing I always tell people is go work at a business similar to the one that you want to run.
Yes.
Go work at one. Go see what it's like on the inside. You know, if you want to own a restaurant, work at a restaurant. If you want to own a cafe or a bakery, go work at a bakery. It doesn't have to be forever, you know, but like for at least a few months, really get a sense of what it's like day to day. What is it going to feel like? What is it going to be like? That's the best way to know if that's really what you want to do, is to do it, is to kind of get some practice at it. I think that's really key. Another thing people ask me sometimes, you know, because La Cocina's had a lot of different businesses, right? In 13 years, well, La Cocina's been around for 15 years. I've been there for 13. Over 100 businesses have come through our doors. 33 businesses have brick and mortar spaces. We've had like 58 graduates. Some graduates sell their businesses, some are in factories, you know, they're all different kinds of things. People are like, well, what is it that makes a business make it? What's like the secret sauce, you know? If everybody comes in with a great idea and a great product and they're all, you know, really talented. And it's actually, I think it's hard to know, but one of the things that I see kind of streaming through all of the different people who have been successful is that they all have a lot of support from either their family, like their actual immediate family. They've got grown kids who are willing to help them out. They've got a partner who's willing to help them out, or like their chosen family. You know, they've got friends who will show up and watch their kid if they get a last minute catering job in the evening. They have friends who will come at 6 in the morning and help them set up their farmer's market tent when it's raining. Because, you know, entrepreneurship can be a little bit lonely, right? Because it's your business and your thing. But I think that the thing that makes most successful entrepreneurs is having your people around you who believe in you, and who not only believe in you, like will give you encouragement when you're feeling down. You can call on the phone and be like, you know, this catering job that I thought was going to go great didn't. And, you know, what do I do? Like that kind of support is really important, but also the actual physical support, showing up, being there when you're at outside lands. Alicia, you know, it's like your friends are there, they're cheering you on, they're like taking shifts so that you can go pee, you know. I mean, it's the little things, but it's important. And so that's one thing that I'll say when you're getting started, is to think about who are your people, who are your supports, and making sure that you really have those people, I think can be really, really important as you're starting a food business.
Beautiful. And what would you say to a person that says, you know what, I like to cook, I want to go into the industry? How much of the cooking business, when someone's in the industry, is actually cooking, would you say? And a little bit more if you can expound on that.
Yeah, totally. You have to love to cook. That's like baseline. But you also have to love running a business. And running a business is not all cooking. Running a business is sitting in front of a computer and doing accounting. It is being on the phone and paying your bills. It is marketing. It is sales. It is taxes. Like running a business is a lot of things. And food is the thing that keeps you going, right? It's like the thing that gets you up in the morning, but it's not the only thing. Like if all you want to do is just bake cookies, go get a job baking cookies. Don't own a cookie business. Because when you own a cookie business, cookies are one piece of your job, but kind of a small piece. And actually, typically, one of the things that you can first hire for is someone who can bake cookies. Because you are going to have to be selling, and you're going to have to be, you know, driving and dropping them off and figuring out the packaging and talking to the grocery stores that you're selling them to. You're not going to have time to bake cookies anymore. And so it's really important, I think, to be passionate about your products, but also to be able to let it go, right? And have someone else make them so that you can focus on the business side of things. Now, that said, and I see Chef T over there cooking.
Getting down. She's getting down in there.
You have to kind of wear all the hats, especially when you're getting started. You have to literally, you know, go to the farmer's market at 6 in the morning and set up the tent and then cook the food and sell the food and clean it up, and then go home and look at your bills and, you know, calculate the taxes that you owe and make sure that that money is in the bank. Like you literally have to do all of it. So cooking has to be a piece of it, but it can't be the only thing you want to do, because you're not gonna be able to have a business if it's the only thing you want to do.
I'm doing everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
everything and everything. Of course, I have a good support system. My husband is just, I don't know, one day you guys will meet him. I would have never done this without him. He has my back, but still, I have to do everything. I mean, the payroll, the grocery, the accounting, woo, everything, the calling, the marketing, the Instagram, the Facebook, the photo taking. I mean, everything. It's everything.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to be ready for that, and it has to,
Right.
hopefully it feels fun, right? You're your
It
own
is. It
boss.
is. No, I love it.
You get to do the
I
social
love
media
it.
that you want to do. You get to
Yeah,
market
I
the way
love
that you
it.
want to market. You get to, put your food out there in the world, and there's
Yeah.
something really amazing
Yeah.
about that opportunity, even though it's
Yeah.
hard. Like, I don't want to take away from the fact that it's hard, but I do think that there's a lot of upside to business ownership too. And so that's what we as an incubator are trying to, provide for people who want to do that. Now, not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has that desire to do their own thing. Some people would rather just get paid every 2 weeks, and not have to think about where that money is coming from, right?
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
do have that entrepreneurial spirit, if you do have that desire, then find the resources that you need to be able to make that happen.
And Leticia, I would venture to guess that a number of people learn who they are when they're going through the incubator because they don't know the degree of their capacity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. I do think it can be hard until you're doing it to know what you can do, like to realize what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think is really interesting and kind of cool about an incubator or even a community like this where you guys are getting together and learning together is like a little bit of what I talked about in terms of it kind of being lonely.
Mhm.
Like when you're, especially if you're a woman of color, you're an immigrant woman and you're doing it, there's not a lot of other people who look like you who are doing this work. And so it's really cool to like have other women who, English is their second language, who, didn't grow up here, or maybe who did, but who, aren't sort of like your typical who you would think of as a business owner,
Mhm.
coming together and like being in community with each other and being able to access and share resources and share, and talk and be connected. There's a lot of power in that, and I think that
Absolutely.
part of La Cocina's power is that community, is that we now have, 70 businesses who are all working toward this same goal, who all, share something in their backgrounds that brought them to La Cocina. And I think that that's a really cool thing, a really positive thing that can be really helpful in both in figuring out who you are and what you're capable of, but also in learning from other people, right? Like if you've never known anybody who owned a restaurant before, it can be really scary to want to own a restaurant. But once you have other friends who are restaurant owners, it feels like, oh yeah, I could do that too. And I think that's a really important aspect of what an incubator can do, or what a community like this can do, which is to really encourage and to really show you what's possible.
Yeah, that had to be one of the most powerful parts of La Cocina, because it sort of gives people a viewing point that opens up the world for them, where they normally seen from catering to production of food on such a large scale as your example was.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. I was wondering, I've been talking to Leticia, if anyone else has any more questions.
Sofía.
Sí, Leticia, ahora que estamos pues en este tiempo difícil, como tú dijiste, es también como un momento de oportunidad, porque es cuando yo me animé a hacer esto. Siempre tuve como esa inquietud y tengo ese sueño de lo que es la industria de la comida, pero nunca me había animado hasta que me quedé sin trabajo en esta pandemia. Entonces me animé a hacer esto. Apenas yo siento que estoy empezando, todo lo que es permisos y todo eso aún todavía no llego ahí, pero muchas personas me dicen, no, ¿por qué no te agarras una troca para que puedas vender tu comida? Pero como que también en mí no, como que no es por ahí por donde quiero ir. Es más como lo que estábamos diciendo hace un momento, más como un catering, algo como una cocina. No sé si estoy bien o estoy mal, pero poco a poco cuando vas caminando, vas como explorando y decidiendo lo que quieres hacer. A mí me encantan las trocas. Cuando yo veo las trocas, digo, aún así quiero. Pero digo, en verdad, si quiero ir por ahí o voy más como lo que viene siendo caring. Y me gusta más lo de caring. También voy explorando lo que son las responsabilidades de un restaurante y todo eso. Como que siento que al 100 tampoco voy decidiendo que no es por ahí, pero por ahora no estoy viendo como nada de eso. Estoy como en una pausa nada más creando platillos y creando cosas porque no me atrevo a hacer ahorita nada mientras que estamos en pandemia porque no tengo como un capital como decir, ok, tengo el trabajo que me está apoyando, ¿verdad? Y yo estoy en esto. Entonces, como que sí existe ese miedito de arriesgarse a hacer algo, ¿ya? Así que no sé si eso es bueno o no, quedarse, no, pues para mí yo siento como que estoy pues esperando, ¿no? A ver si pasa el tiempo difícil y a ver si esto se compone un poquito para ir como al siguiente paso.
Claro. Voy a traducir a inglés para que puedan saber tu pregunta. Sophia was asking if, what to do because it's COVID. She lost her job and so she started selling at home, but it sort of feels like, is this really the right time to start? Like there's so many risks, like, since she hasn't started, like maybe it's a good opportunity to kind of wait and just keep practicing. And, how do you approach this pandemic with business, right? And so I would say to Sophia, and I'm going to let Rocio translate for her so we can all learn, but I think kind of hibernating, if you can, is a great thing to do, right? There's a lot of businesses who can't, who have to pay their rent and who have to go out and who have to be frontline workers and who have to be, taking those risks and doing it because they've got bills to pay. And, if that's the position you're in, then do it, right? Like all the La Cocina businesses are still selling because like they have to sell. That's what they're doing. They got to pay their rent. They have to, be able to pay their employees, etc. But I think that for all of our businesses who are still in the incubator part, who don't yet have brick and mortars, who don't yet have established sales, they do kind of have this interesting opportunity to like wait and to see what trends, like see where the economy is going, see where they really want to be, when this thing ends, right? Because like what I would say to Sophia is like, I don't even know what catering is going to look like in 2021 or 2022, because at least at La Cocina, a lot of catering goes to offices, goes to like tech, at least in San Francisco. And all of those people have announced basically that everybody's working from home the whole year and maybe, part of next year, who knows? And so don't do that. Don't sign yourself up to be a caterer for office lunches when we don't even know if people are ever going to go back to their offices. If that's what you were already doing, now you're having to kind of navigate it. But what you have the opportunity to do is think about, where are people gathering? Are you going to really have a better business by doing like a food truck or having more of like a farmer's market business because people are more comfortable with eating outside or taking their food outside than with doing kind of more office catering? Well, then that's a thing that you can still figure out. You can still write a business plan, for one of those two things from the position that you're in right now, which is kind of like a waiting position. So I think there's some power in that. There's some power in being able to kind of wait and see where things kind of head economically, for sure. And so, yes, is the answer. Wait as long as you're able to, so that you can really, create a business that fits our post-pandemic world, whatever that's going to look like. For a lot of businesses, like brick and mortar businesses, having outdoor seating and having the capacity for people to drive up and pick up food is huge. And like, we would have never known that, right? So when in San Francisco, when we were looking for places for people, we were looking for foot traffic, like literally, where are people walking by, not driving traffic, not delivery traffic, but now that's what people are looking for, right? Parking spaces so that all the DoorDash and Postmates people can park and get the food. We would never have thought of that. But if you're looking for restaurant spaces now, you can look for that. So, I do think that there is some kind of benefit to being in the planning stages right now, because you can be a lot more adaptable for what the future might look like.
We have a question that says, can you tell us more about finance, the initial investment, and how you evaluate your success?
Totally. It takes businesses about 3 years to become profitable-ish. So what do people do for those first 3 years? Sometimes they have other jobs, second jobs. Sometimes they have partners or kids who can make enough steady money that they're paying their home expenses and their home rent while the business is kind of growing to a place where it can be profitable. It depends so much. The financial piece depends so much on the kind of business that you're running, whether it's a cookie business or a tamale business or a Mexican food business or a Ethiopian food business. Like, your financial projections are going to look completely different if it's catering, if it's restaurant, if it's packaged. So that's where I'd say that that's like the power of taking a really good business planning class, because the people who run those classes, for the most part, what they're really focusing on is like the financial part. What are your startup costs going to look like depending on what kind of business you want to start? What are your food costs and labor costs percentages? What should they look like? That varies a lot depending on whether or not you're doing packaged food or prepared food. And then just being really realistic about how long it's going to take you to break even, how long it's going to take you to get to profitability, and what's your cash flow going to look like until then. Do you need a loan? Do you need some savings? Or do you really need to just do it really slowly? Right. And there's not like necessarily right or wrong. If you don't have a lot of money, then you gotta go the slow route. You gotta go someone who makes wedding cakes, for example. So when she books a wedding, this was pre-COVID, of course, let's say it's a 200-person wedding, the cake is going to be like a $7 a slice cake, right? She makes these really beautiful, elaborate cakes. She asks for, a 50% deposit up front. So she uses that to go buy the ingredients that she needs to then bake the cake, to then get the rest of the money, at the end. And she knows how many cakes she needs to make, how many weddings she needs to book in a given month. And also she knows that there's months where no one gets married, like January. And so she needs to be able to, calculate what her, like how many cakes over the course of the year to be able to have some kind of steady coming in, when like the June and Julys and August and Septembers are going to be the big months. And then otherwise you might have a birthday cake here and there, but you're not going to have the huge wedding cake. So it totally varies by business type and how you grow it, whether you have tons of startup costs or you just do the like literally cake by cake. It just depends on the business and on the situation. But a good business planning type of class, the SBA, the SBDC, they have some good resources in terms of templates and things that you're thinking about. At La Cocina, most people get started with like less than $5,000 in the bank, but they do it really slowly. And maybe with some initial kind of small loans. I think that if you wanted to open a restaurant right off the bat, like you need to have $100,000, $150,000 ready to go to do, to get your equipment and your rent and, to have a little bit of cushion for, your cash flow in the first little while. But it varies wildly. It's really different starting a restaurant in San Francisco than in Hayward, than in Berkeley for us. I don't know Santa Monica that well, but I'm guessing it's the same sort of thing. But having a good handle on your finances and on your money is so key to business success. You have to because that's the number one reason why food businesses go out of business is because their cash flow, they run out of cash. They can't keep going, even if they maybe know that like June and July and all those cakes are around the corner. If you can't pay your rent in May, it doesn't matter, you know? So it's that planning, and it's sort of having that knowledge that really helps businesses be able to be successful. Paying a salary to yourself, it's a great question. You know, when I say it can take 3 years for a business to be profitable, sometimes I think, you know, for the most part, business owners are taking some kind of salary or some kind of owner's draw from the business and factoring that into their labor, because, you know, if you're not paying yourself, you're not being realistic, because eventually you're also going to want to pay other people. And so if you just are floating the business off of your sweat equity completely, you're not going to really have a chance to know if the business is really working. You know, if you're actually bringing in enough money to pay for salaries. So yeah, we do recommend that business owners take either an owner's draw or a salary, depending on what their structure is and how they want to pay their taxes. But it's a lot more realistic. You can't just have free labor, but then when you start to have employees, you're going to have to pay them. So that's important too. That's a good question. Thank you.
Awesome. So does anyone else have any more questions? We're getting to time here. Anybody? I have a question. Chef T, can you tell us what you're making?
Yes, I'm making beetroot salad.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw pepper in there.
We do.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and then red onions as well. Good for us. So yeah.
Beautiful.
And then I'm gonna add some garlic and ginger, just lemon juice, and that's it. Mix it up and eat it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I can't live without this. This is my vitamin C. That's why I don't get sick. No flu, no colds. I eat it just as it is, raw. Woo! With the seeds.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big in our culture. We eat this a lot. So we stuff it with tomato and onion and ginger and garlic. The ginger and garlic is me, but I love to add that. So you stuff it and you just eat it. Yeah, good.
Okay, so give us your contact information, Chef T. Or tell me.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let me tell you. Phone number or email address?
Phone number and address.
Okay, so phone number would be 323 403. Wait, it's a new number. Wait, 403 7705, because I'm giving you my personal number because I'm available on that all the time. Okay, whenever. So yeah. And then my email address would be Tnt Lifestyle. Just spell the end, T and D, Tnt Lifestyle. Then number 7. That's my lucky number. I had to add it there. At gmail.com.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Well, thank everyone for coming today. I appreciate everyone in attendance, and I really appreciate all the information you gave us, Leticia.
Oh, of course. I'm so happy that I was able to be here. Thank you, Rocio, for translating. I realize I speak quickly, so I hope it wasn't too hard. But I love, you know, connecting with other people who are thinking about starting businesses. I'm excited that the city of Santa Monica, you know, is looking for ways to support entrepreneurs. And, you know, our door is always open post-pandemic. If you ever find yourself in the Bay Area and you want to come by and visit and see how La Cocina works, shoot me an email. It's just leticia@lacocinasf.org. I would be so happy to, you know, to meet you guys and show you guys around. And in the meantime, you know, we can communicate via email if you have any other questions, or, you know, Kathleen will know where to find me. So I really wish you guys good luck as you think about your businesses and how to grow them. And then also good luck to Santa Monica as they're getting their project up and running too. So thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Before
go. Sorry.
If you want to talk to you, because I have something question. I get your email. I like to get your phone to impersonate to talk to you. Are you mind? How can I get your phone number, or where can I go to talk to you?
I'll put my work phone number in the chat as well. The La Cocina phone, so that if you have questions, you can call. I'm extension 306. So that's my work phone if anybody would like to call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always contact us if you don't have the information here.
Yeah, Kathleen can send it to you too. So
I didn't even write down. Let's go away.
Right. I'm also, I live in Santa Monica, just in case, you know, you guys wanted to contact me. I'm literally right here. So I just moved to Santa Monica. This is my new community. So
Welcome,
guys-
welcome.
thank you.
Well, I look forward to meeting you and to talking to you all individually and in the future.
Thank you,
yes,
both.
thank you.
Sounds good.
Have a
Happy
great
New Year, everybody.
All right, bye. Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Leticia.
Don't get COVID.
We won't.
Be healthy.
Yeah. Eat this. Eat this.
Gracias. Bye.
Bye bye. This was fun.